Hello, today we're going to be talking about planning flexible spread content for your ladder. I'm Ava Butsu and I've been advising yearbook for 22 years at Grand Blanc High School in Michigan. I'm a lifelong book nerd and I love to write about what I read. When we're making a yearbook, there really are ultimately only two questions that we're working on. What's the story and how will we tell it? So gathering story ideas is the what's the story part of our project. And fortunately, Jostens is designing 30 plus surveys that can be modified and sent out to students, and that this way the staff can gather content for the pages. That's how they can figure out what the story is going to be. If you're looking for these surveys, they're going to be found in the Jostens Digital Classroom. If you're a Layout Pro user, you can link them directly to your spreads from the Layout Pro designer. So how are we going to tell the story is the second question. And there are so many different ways that you can package your stories. The formats for storytelling are listed here, and there are multiple more. But just having a list like this posted in your classroom or online for your students will help inspire them to figure out different ways to tell that story. Let's take a look at planning a sports spread that hypothetically has cross country and tennis on it divided into two pages. Traditionally, students will think about covering events that are happening for each of those teams. A more creative way of covering those kinds of sports might be to figure out an entire topic for the spread or a theme. In the case of this spread here, it might be something like the reps matter most, and we can divide the spread into 4 different stories or even more. Each story can have its own headline with a topic. So the I Hear You module might be about a tennis player who's talking about a repetitive skill and how it fine-tunes their game. A self-talk module might feature a runner who goes through a series of thoughts that run through their mind, or they might describe how their mind feels clear after a long run. A My Journal module could be an athlete who takes up running conditioning and keeps a journal of how it goes every day. Maybe they might even share some of their tracking app screenshots for that module. And we might have a Heart of the Matter story where an athlete with asthma talks about how aerobic exercise affects them and how they persevere. When we're looking at those sports feature pages, we can cover more than just one sport. In this case, it would be a fall season, and every team would have an athlete who could answer a survey with a couple of questions on it and then be featured in a column through photos and through some of their quotes. This is a spread with every varsity winter team, and it's actually a bar graph that measures how many kids are on each team. And almost every kid got an opportunity to answer a survey where they were able to talk about their proudest moment on the season or as that type of athlete. This is a different type of sports feature where we just have a single photo representing each of the teams, and you'll see that there are some facts or some infographics that talk about some of their statistics and maybe what their workout looked like for the season. We can do the same thing with clubs planning, and this is really great because we all know that clubs come and clubs go. There will be clubs that promise that they're going to be very active during the year that never actually meet, and there'll be clubs that crop up halfway through the year and you have to scramble and figure out how to cover them. So we might take something like medical occupations and GEDIS, which are both related to health and well-being, and we might change the topic of that spread into a bundle of nerds. So we can look at some stories where we have kids who are like hospital volunteers or job shadowing in a hospital, and they might talk about what their experience is like there. We could do some sort of an interactive quiz under the Not So Trivial Matters module and maybe talk about the central nervous system and testing knowledge of fight or flight instincts or meditation. And there might be also an anatomical self-resume where there's a visual guide to a person's skills, interests, or accomplishments. And that might look something like this in a particular yearbook module. We can do the same thing with academics planning. And so if we're used to doing a world languages and an English spread, for example, we could change it to a topic called Find Your Voice, where we would have those same kinds of headlines, self-talk, not so trivial matters and more than words, and each one of these could deal with language and how that authentically crops up in students' lives at home and in their studies. This is what that kind of a language-based spread would look like in a yearbook, where we have polls, surveys, and Q&As. This is a different way of looking at an academics feature, where we have students talking about what they're learning in the classroom and how it will apply to their future careers. Thanks for coming today to learn about different ways of approaching your spread design and storytelling. Happy yearbooking!